Good morning and welcome to the Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church on Zoom. We recognize that our church property rests on a Hachiman and Tongva land. My name is Jan Mabey and I am your worship associate today. I am joined by Reverend Sian Wiltshire, our minister. Beth Syverson, our director of music ministries, is joined this morning by a few members of Orange Coast Choir. Reverend Judy, our Director of Religious Education, held classes for our children before our service and will hold a youth class right after the service today. I would like you to open the chat box, and if you haven't already, say hello. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide us. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. After the service, we will place everyone that remains into Zoom breakout rooms for 20 minutes of virtual coffee and conversation. Everyone is welcome to join in, and it's a great way to get to know people in the congregation. Let us light our chalice, the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition. If you have one at home, we can light them together. Let our worship begin with the lighting of our chalice as we say our Unison affirmation. Please join me now as we begin. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another, this we affirm together. Please join Beth in singing of the opening song.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now
the golden present. The golden present is not like the proverbial egg that one expects you to sit on it and wait. It is instead a scrumptious feast to be served when you call. Look around. It awaits a response from you, one that says, yes, I see you. Yes, I choose you. Yes. The golden present ever reaches for you and wonders if you'll come to unwrap its gifts.
No, you can't always tell one from another, and it's best not to judge a book by its tattered cover. I found when I tried or looked deeper inside, what appears unadorned might be wondrously formed. You can't always tell, but sometimes you just know. Round here we throw geodes in the garden. They're as common as the rain, or corn silk in July, unpretentious browns and grays, the stain of Indiana clay. They're what's left of shallow seas, glacial rock and mystery, and inside there shines a secret bright as promise. All these things that we call familiar are just miracles clothed in the commonplace. And you see, if you try, in the next stranger's eye, that God walks around in muddy boots, sometimes rags, and that's the truth. You can't always tell, but sometimes you just know. Some say geodes were made from pockets of tears, trapped away in small spaces for years upon years, pressed down and transformed till the true self was born, and the whole world moved on like the last notes of a song, a love letter sent without return address. Though you can't always tell one from another, and it's best not to judge a book by its tattered cover. I don't open them to see folks round here just like me. We have come to believe there's hidden good in common things. You can't always tell, but sometimes you just know. You can't always tell, but sometimes you just know.
You are a beautiful and unique snowflake. You are not a beautiful and unique snowflake. No one else is exactly like you. You're one in a billion. You realize that means there's like 8 people exactly like you? Shut up, I am a unique snowflake. That's so cheesy. There's a lot of snowflake science videos out there on YouTube, and they all mention the same idea, that no two snowflakes are alike. But where do we get that idea? The universe is a big place, it's really old, and countless planets with countless snowflakes, surely 2 of them have been alike. The idea that no 2 snowflakes are alike probably started on January 15th, 1885 in Jericho, Vermont. A 20-year-old named Wilson Bentley was sitting outside his farmhouse, freezing his Bentley's off, holding a sheet of black fabric and a turkey feather in the other hand, waiting for a snowflake to fall in just the right spot. And when it did, he put that snowflake under a microscope attached to an enormous old camera, and he held his breath. One wrong breath could ruin the whole thing. He opened the shutter, and Wilson Bentley had the first photograph of a snowflake ever taken. Wilson Bentley, seriously loves snowflakes, in the sense that he never got married, never moved out of his mom's house, and basically just took pictures of snowflakes for 50 years. Now, he called them masterpieces of design. Of course, we know there is no design in a snowflake, but that doesn't make them any less amazing. Every plate, every branch, every needle on a needle on a needle, all of those details are what's called emergent properties. This is complexity that's based on very simple rules. And for snowflakes, those rules go back to the basic laws of physics. In the air or in liquid, water molecules are zipping around, bouncing off of each other and everything else trillions of times per second. We have no way of knowing where they are or what direction they're facing at any moment. As we remove heat, it gets colder, and those water molecules start to slow down. Eventually, their atomic attraction, the actual hydrogen bonds between water molecules, takes over and they settle into order. It sounds complicated, but we just call that freezing. The structure of a snowflake can be found in just 6 water molecules. I know that the angle between any 2 hydrogens is about 105 degrees, and I know that's true for any water molecule in the entire universe. And for some of those water molecules, well, the other hydrogen's behind them. Just like that, we've uncovered the 6-fold symmetry of a snowflake crystal. That crystal starts as a tiny speck of dust or pollen which catches water vapor out of the air and eventually forms the simplest of snowflake shapes, tiny hexagons called diamond dust, and then randomness takes over. There's a very simple reason why a snowflake's arm grows out here and not here. It's just because it sticks out farther and has a higher probability that water molecules will land there. And more water molecules and more water molecules land. And then we've got an arm and another arm and another arm and on until we get the intricate and beautiful shapes that we know and love. Depending on temperature and humidity, and a lot of factors that scientists don't even understand, those simple hexagons can give rise to seemingly infinite shapes. And each snowflake will travel through different air currents and bump into different water molecules. But in 1988, researcher Nancy Knight claimed to find 2 identical snowflakes, and they do look very much alike. It's quite possible that 2 of those simple hexagons could be the same in every measurement of size and mass, but they would not be identical, and physics tells us why. We know that water molecules are made of 2 hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom, but not every hydrogen is created equal. If we go back to the Big Bang, we find out that out of every million or so hydrogen atoms created, a couple hundred of them, instead of just being a proton and an electron, are holding on to a neutron. And this is the isotope of hydrogen called deuterium. In Earth's water, even in you, about 1 in 3,000 molecules will be holding on to deuterium instead of hydrogen. Out of the million molecules that make up a snowflake, a lot of them will be holding on to deuterium too. Even identical looking snowflakes are not the same. Now, you could love a snowflake just because it's pretty, but it doesn't take away from its beauty to understand that it was sculpted by chance and physics. To me, that adds to the beauty. I have to say, this whole "we are unique snowflakes" thing is pretty cheesy. It might be the most overused metaphor in the history of metaphors. So let me give you a new one. Snowflakes are symmetrical, but they're not perfect. They're ordered, but they're created in disorder. Every random branch retells their history, that singular journey that they took to get here. And most of all, they're fleeting and temporary. Even if sometimes they don't look so unique on the outside, if we look within, we can see that they're truly unique after all. Stay curious.
Okay, my wonderful snowflakes. I just wanted to let you know this is a participatory service today. I am going to ask you a series of 3 questions, And I'd like you to take the questions, very sincerely, seriously. No sarcasm, and you know who I'm looking at. This is also about, slowly and safely revealing parts of yourself, that beautiful core within you. And with each question, I'm going to invite you to write your answer in the chat. This is not a requirement, but I'm gonna dare you, okay? I will read some of them out loud, but I might miss out on some, or it might be taking way too long or something like that. So forgive me if I don't read yours, but I'm assuming you all can read pretty fast. So to start us off, the first question I have for you is a pretty easy one based on the video that we saw. What is something that is unique about you? Now, think about that for a moment. You don't have to bare your soul, but something that might be a little bit different from most people here that wouldn't know about you. And I'll give you an example. So most of you know I'm an identical twin, but what you might not know is that I was born in Brussels, Belgium. So that's just a little unique fact about me. Now, I happen to know that, of course, many people are born in Belgium. That may not be so unique. It might be a little bit unique here in the US, but the circumstances of my birth are actually quite unique. So remember, my wonderful snowflakes, you might have two that seem alike, but you go inside further and you find that they're actually very unique. So what about you? Think about that. And when you're ready, I invite you to put that in chat and I'll start reading them out loud. So Scott says he's had 10 surgeries. Wow, Scott, you're doing really well. That's amazing. And Sherry says, I have a dimple in one ear. I had no idea. Isn't that fun? Clovers has rainbow hair and a rainbow car. Yes, she does. You cannot miss her hair or her car. Jen says, I have a red birthmark on the back of my right arm. I'll be darned. Okay. And Sarah says, Hunter says, I'm the only, oh, should I miss that one? I'm the only Sarah Ellen Ruth Swift Hunter born to John and Bette Swift. Okay. Let's see here. Tracy says, I have a freckle in my eye. I didn't know you could even get freckles there. Eula says, I'm a breech baby. I did not know that. Let's see. Sue, raised on a farm 10 miles from our town. Wow, that's out there. Craig says, I can juggle. Ooh, see, now you shouldn't have told me that because now I'm going to maybe say something. We're going to use that sometime, use some juggling in the service. Let's see here. Kate says, when I need a distraction, I play a gourd nose flute, which I made some years ago. I love it. Wow. Barbara says, I'm my mother's favorite third daughter. Oh, there you go. Let's see here. Deborah says, oh, like Sue, like her sister said, I was raised on a wheat farm in Nebraska. Let's see here. Susan and Lisa, I don't know what Lisa, I wore color orange every day from 6th to 12th grade. I love it. That's wonderful. Jean Chris says, I'm an accomplished scuba diver. Wow, very cool. Jeffrey is a SAG-AFTRA member. Excellent. Jade Girl says, my grandparents were first cousins, so I'm my own third cousin. That's wonderful. Let's see here. Jim says, I was the first baby born of an intern in New London, Connecticut. Okay. Let's see here. Pat Larkin says, camels have become a beloved totem to her. I love it. And Susan says, I grew up on Riverside where I learned how to swim because summers were so hot. Absolutely. Let's see. Ava, I don't know if it was Ava or Cosme, said, I'm named after both my grandmothers. It says that would be Ava Lou. Oh, both my grandmothers who were present when I was born. Wow. Ava Lucille. Nice. Catherine Tatus, I'm the child of a CIA agent. That's wonderful. I love it. Oh, and Denny said she had a radio program in Chicago and she was the disc jockey. I had no idea about that about you, Denny. That is cool. All right, we could probably read every single one of these, but let's go ahead. You can keep putting them in there. Let's go ahead and join Beth in singing.
But I see your true colors shining through.
I love all of these things people are putting here. This is wonderful. So I want to tell you a little bit about a rule that exists in my twin sister's family that's a little bit unique. It's kind of an interesting, maybe it's also exists in your family, but I love how she deals with it. So the rule is that you cannot talk smack about yourself. Now, obviously, you also can't talk smack about other people, but about yourself in particular. And if you do, you have to say immediately something nice about yourself. So for example, my brother-in-law, this started with my brother-in-law. So he struggles a little bit with some self-esteem issues, particularly early on in their marriage in certain areas. And he was kind of a very nervous person and had a hard time sometimes getting things out. And he would say something like, "Oh, I'm so stupid." And that's talking smack about yourself. Okay, so Regan, my twin, she would immediately respond with, "Hey, you don't diss my sweetie. Now you have to say something nice about yourself." And she will literally sit there and glare. She'll glare at him, waiting for him to respond. And initially he was sort of grudgingly about it. And he would say something like, "Well, okay, sometimes I'm funny." And I thought, he's hilarious. Okay. Now, this started almost immediately after they were married, and maybe even a little bit before. Nowadays, it's 16 years into their marriage. And it's happened so many times that now when he does something and he catches himself, right, talking smack about himself, he'll sort of like look at her really quickly and kind of smile, and then he'll give himself a compliment automatically, right? It's well trained. And of course, it's sort of funny because Regan will occasionally do that to herself, and her teenage son now will say, "Hey, Mom, you got to give yourself a compliment now." So it's kind of spread in the whole family, which is really kind of fun. But I love this. Now, what I love about my sister's rule is that she really is quite fierce about it. She will glare, fold her arms, and stop everything. If she's like working away, "Oh, nope, compliment." She is just fierce. And sometimes I think we need to be fierce with our love. Now, and I just also want to mention, like, my brother-in-law has grown so much in his relationship with my sister. I mean, when I first met him, like I said, he was really nervous. He had a hard time getting ideas out. His hands would literally shake, and not anymore. And he even stops himself, you know, and he's gained so much more confidence. He's just this genuinely kind person. And now, not all of that is my sister's doing, so I want to give him some credit for this, but I know that fierce love has played a part in his transformation. Now, when I call what my sister does as fierce love, it's the kind of love that doesn't and won't ever give up on you. That's what fierce love is. It won't ever give up on you. It's a love that believes in you, deeply believes in you, and then it holds you to your highest and best self, even when it's uncomfortable. Now, I think parents in particular know something about this kind of love, especially with their children. Now, I had that with my sister and my best friend, and I hope that all of you have experienced that kind of love, or you've given that kind of love. Because fierce love is a love that can transform you, but you have to kind of let it, you have to let it in, because fierce love, like any kind of love, is an invitation. It's not an exhortation, it's an invitation. And somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we forgot how awesome we are, okay? Right? We shy away from compliments. I mean, someone gives me a compliment, nice sermon, whatever. I'm like, my brain just goes into, "Oh, they're just being nice," right? Anybody else do that? You sort of dismiss compliments, right? Yeah, right? What's up with that? Why is it so hard to celebrate ourselves? I remember the moment when I heard, I think I was in high school, and I heard that thing, "Pride goeth before the fall." Right? That was something, and I remember thinking, oh, pride is something bad? Oh, okay. And I think we took that to heart. We learned that pride was bad, but really what they were talking about was arrogance. Arrogance is different from pride, right? It's okay to have pride in who you are, your gifts, your accomplishments. I mean, if it's anything that the LGBTQ community has taught the cis hetero community, it's have pride in who you are, celebrate who you are. You're unique and beautiful. You're a beautiful snowflake. Now, we didn't start out shoving away compliments. I remember loving them as kids. And if somebody told me I did something well, I believed them, generally speaking. I remember someone told me that I was smart. I was like, okay, I guess I'm smart. I'm one of those smart people. But over the years and experiences and our own inner voice and comparative and competition, we start to doubt. We get down on ourselves. We remember more of the traumas and where we messed up, the mistakes, than we do the celebrations and where we got things right. It's like this creme or this muck gets coated around this beautiful crystal that we have inside of us. And I think that we are kind of like geodes, right? Like we look sort of normal and unassuming on the outside, but when you go inside, there is beauty beyond the telling. Have you ever met someone, right, who like just sort of like blew your expectations? We have these sort of biases sometimes or assumptions. I remember one time meeting this guy who I was introduced to him, and he was an accountant. And I immediately thought, oh, you know, he's going to be one of those sort of penny pinching nerds who are kind of unfriendly, a little dour or something like that. Like somehow I had this terrible idea of what accountants were. This assumption based on media examples, you know, in the TV and everything, and kind of cultural understandings. But here's the thing, this guy turned out to be like in a rock band, and he was one of the happiest, you know, funniest people, like just, you know, happy-go-lucky and everything. And I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't fit. Somehow, and I was like, wow, I've got this big bias. And I love it that when we open up and we see how people really are, it's like we know a geode, right? We know when we open it up, we're going to get something beautiful. But it's always this pleasant surprise when we do. It's the same way with people. In fact, for most people, if you can get past that hard outside layer that they project to the world, 99% of the time, you're going to find that beautiful layer underneath. And I've been fascinated by geodes ever since I learned that my birthstone is the amethyst, which comes from geodes for the most part. Now, you remember that earlier the choir sang, or actually I think it was Beth who sang. Some say geodes are made from pockets of tears, trapped away in small places for years upon years, pressed down and transformed till the true self is born. Until our true self is born. If we could just break ourselves open, we could see that we are, each of us, this beautiful geode inside, whether it's amethyst or quartz or citrine or agate or whatever, it's all beautiful and unique. And how do we do that? How do we break and open our geodes and let our true self be born? With fierce love. You got to strike that rock hard to get it to break open. So this morning, I'm going to get fierce with you. All right? I want you to give yourself a compliment. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to glare at you and at the screen until you do. And then more than that, I want you to write it in the chat for everyone to see. And I want you to choose something that makes you squirm a little bit. Because some of you, I think, are probably fine. Okay, I can ride a bike, or something like that. Like, okay, now think of something that makes you go, oh, ugh. You squirmers, you who are squirming, can you believe that you are beautiful beyond the telling, that you really are a wonderful person? So just take a few minutes to think about it, and maybe if Beth will play some music, we'll do that. I'll tell you a little bit. So I was going to say, well, I'm good at fiercely loving people, but that's kind of a little bit of a cop-out because you already know that one. So I'm going to tell you something that makes me squirm because sometimes I don't always believe it, but I think it might actually be true. And that's, I'm good at art. I'm going to say that. I'm good at art. It's really hard for me to say that because I'm new to it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm good at art. So there you go. All right. We've got some people putting them there. So Anna Ryan says, I'm very curious. Anything new is great. I know, me too. All right. Jean Chris, I'm cheerful. Yes, you are. Absolutely. All right. Jeff says, I'm a good dungeon master. Yes, you are. I have experienced that. You're awesome at it. Peggy says, I'm open-minded. Sarah says, I'm funny. Yes, you are. Jeffrey says, I'm strong. Amen. Scott, I'm artistic without the passion to create. I love that. You're artistic. Marsha, Marcia, you're a good cook. You are a yummy cook. And Clover says, I'm pretty organized. I think you are organized. See if you can take the qualifiers out of those. Tom says, I'm a good friend. Oh, that's a good thing. Deborah says, I'm a good listener. Yes, you are. Tracy, I love my quirky, inquisitive side. Amen to quirkiness. Laura says, I look for the best in people. Me too. Nancy says, I'm a good accountant and I don't think I fit your stereotype. Absolutely you don't, Nancy. And Aaron says, I'm empathetic. Yeah, you have a big heart. Patrick says, I'm inquisitive, resourceful, creative, and love to eat. They were all good at that last one. Excellent. And Sandy, I believe, says, I love being a grandee. Bertie says, I work at acceptance. Bertie, you are great at accepting people. You're amazing. Sarah Jones says, I'm supportive. She is. Boy, she is very supportive. It's out of her way. Alex says, I'm funnier than I know. You are funny, man. Let's see. Lisa says, I'm a good baker. Oh, that's good to know. Sue says, I'm a happy person. Yes, you are. Denny says, I'm a great Nana Denny. Catherine says, I never give up on people. Oh, that's a great, wonderful thing to be good at. Ken says, I am thoughtful. I'm taking out the qualifier. Ken, you are thoughtful. Jacques says, sometimes I am funny. Jacques, our funny man. Maria, I'm self-disciplined and persistent. And Tara says, I'm a dedicated student. Oh, that's like that self-discipline. Yes. Excellent. Maria, self-disciplined and persistent. Oh, this is wonderful. Elizabeth, I'm a good mom. Yes, you are. Your kids are amazing. You are a good mom. Oh, you wonderful, wonderful people. I'm so glad you did that. All right, let us sing.
But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors. That's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. Like rainbow.
And you know that fierce love, it's not just applied to ourselves or to the ones that we love, but we can also apply it to the stranger, someone we don't know or don't know well. Maybe it's someone you met on the street. Sometimes it's just meeting the eye of a homeless person and asking their name, or speaking up against bullies, or speaking up against racism or sexist jokes. It's working to spread understanding about transphobia or homophobia. You know, if I had to say that there's one problem in the world, one that would fix all our social justice woes, whether it's classism, racism, sexism, whatever ism it is out there, it's that we don't see inside people's geodes. We don't see the individual beauty of each person. We only see that creme, that muck, that hard shell that we put on them with our own biases, our prejudices, and our assumptions. Or maybe it's some that they carry around even themselves for protection. And I think it's our job as Unitarian Universalists is to crack open the geodes of our hearts and the heart of the white supremacy culture so that everyone's beauty can shine forth. And we can begin with letting our true colors shine through with fierce love. It's not easy, but that beauty inside of you is too precious to be hidden away by a hard shell. You know, the mission of this church is to transform our lives and our communities by living our principles, right? We came up with that mission years and years ago. Well, here's a bit of a more poetic way of saying it. Our mission is to crack open geodes with fierce love. And Martin Luther King, he famously said that justice is what love looks like in public. Justice is what love looks like in public. Now, we tend to think that acts of justice as mostly those sort of big events, right? Whether they're marches and protests and voting and writing op-eds, which are all absolutely fabulous, wonderful ways of showing love in public. But justice doesn't always occur on a large scale. It often occurs in everyday moments when we're talking with colleagues or friends or even our family. It's posting on Facebook, for example. It comes in the most common of places. So for example, this happened a few years ago. I have a cousin who's, she's far more conservative religiously than I am. And I remember she posted a meme on Facebook that said, we need God back in our schools, because she wanted to have prayer in schools. And I remember just sort of asking her, I said, well, maybe, God is in the love of teachers for their students, or it's in the minds that are growing and maturing. Maybe it's in the creativity and learning. Maybe, just maybe, God never left schools. I just wanted to give her something else to think about it in a different way. But notice that I didn't tell her, oh, there's no such thing as your God, your God's gone. Or, I didn't say she was stupid, or no shaming. I just wanted to offer a different way of seeing things. Because sometimes fierce love means speaking up, so someone doesn't have to even. This is particularly true if you're a person of privilege. Years ago, long before, so this was like 20 years ago, before we knew what microaggressions, I'd never even heard that term before, or most of us weren't even aware of this idea of systemic racism. I remember I was in a meeting of marketing people. We were all sitting around, and we'd come to the ad agency, and they were pitching ideas for a campaign. And one of the pitches was to use the metaphor brown nosing. And I remember at the time kind of being like, okay, that doesn't sound quite right. And I remember I was sitting right across from an African-American man who's part of our group. And I remember seeing his shoulders just do this. And he just sort of dropped. And he spoke up and he said, are you aware that that is a racist term? And the woman immediately apologized. I mean, everybody was sort of embarrassed, from the ad agency and everything. But I remember that shoulder drooping, and I remember it just sort of hit me like, he gets this a lot. Like, he has to do all this heavy lifting of educating people. And I realized that then that I needed to educate myself so that I can help with that heavy lifting, and I can take on that heavy lifting. So if you're a person of privilege, you can use your fierce love to give people a break from all the heavy lifting and pointing out whether it's racism or it's sexism or transphobia or homophobia or whatever it is. Because if it feels off, it feels wrong, it is. And what's funny is that years later when I was serving on the Interfaith Council, something similar came up. I can't remember the metaphor that came up, but I didn't wait for the people of color on that council to say anything. In fact, actually, it was myself and like two other white women who we all jumped in and said, oh, no, you can't. No, we're not saying that. You can't do that. It was kind of cool to see the difference of how far we've come. And that's fierce love too. So there are lots of ways that we can and that we have in our past expressed fierce love in public, right? And I know that you have too. So here's my third question for you. What ways can we show fierce love in public? Or what ways have you shown fierce love in public in the past? That might take a little bit more time to think about that. What are the ways that we can show fierce love in public? Or if you have an example from your own past to show that. I want to give us all ideas. So again, I invite you to write a statement to that effect in the chat. And if it's a really longer story, I invite you to tell it during our breakout sessions after the service. I will read them out loud, but I'm going to sit here and glare until you come up with one. right. Joan says, say hello to people who are unlike you. Saying hello, like your smile, anything. Scott says, learn how to express empathy in front of other people. Yeah, that's a tough one, particularly for men, right? To express empathy. Well done, Scott. Beth said, I've defended our son when someone said his addiction problem is a moral issue. Oh, yeah, it's a tough one. Oh. And Linda says, I've been active in many protest marches and insist on justice. Absolutely. Clover, I treat everyone with respect. Sarah says, I stood up for someone who was the victim of gossip. Yeah. Stand up with someone who was being bullied. Absolutely. Alex says, I've been a social worker for 20 years. So yeah, you've been working on the justice end of things for quite some time, haven't you? I know many of you have. Catherine said, standing with other UUs outside detention center in Arizona in front of men with guns. Wow. Sherry, defending a woman this year who was violated. Oh, good for you, Sherry. Jim says, demonstrating. All of these are great. Tara says, seek to understand those who society prejudges. Absolutely. Jeffrey says, education through the arts. That's an interesting way of showing fierce love. I love that. Beth is really into using music for justice. Participating in rallies, says Pat, for social justice, and joining groups like Braver Angels. And Kate says, I teach science, especially conservation issues, and not being afraid to use the word evolution. Amen. Or to point out the contributing factors to habitat loss and diminished biodiversity. Right on. Sometimes you got to take a stand. Yep. Oh, Joan says, when she teaches kids and adults that their words can hurt. Absolutely. Yeah. I know Savannah, she says, proactively educate yourself about others and their experience so they don't have to educate you. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, Sunny, when I see a covered one, I think you're thinking of the hijab. You make sure to say hello to her to create a friendly atmosphere. And Marilyn says, I paid for groceries for a person in front of me who was short on money. That was lovely of you. And Valerie says, I recently made a point of making sure that we consulted with families rather than just report without consent if students talked about potential systems of COVID. We're doing distance learning. I wanted to make sure we keep our families' trust. Excellent. Marching in Women's March for Justice. Paying attention to someone being ignored. Yeah, that's a good one. I really like that, Lori, because sometimes, people are quiet, but they want to be included. There's this great thing that youth do in our youth groups where I can't remember what it's called, but they literally, if they see a circle forming and someone standing out the side of the circle, they'll say something like, open up or something like that. And so the other person makes sure that they're included. I think that's so important. That's one of, sitting on boards. Go, Kate Kossman. Erin says, I like to say hello to people on hikes and in airports, engage in conversation to learn about them, right? Because you discover these geodes of people. It's really amazing. Laura says, smile and say hello to people who aren't wearing masks in public. You're very kind. And Maria says, learning how to stay calm and have more productive conversations with people who disagree with me. Oh yeah, we take deep breath. Oh, these are wonderful, everyone. These are wonderful. Great ways that we show love, fierce love out in the world. Let us sing with Beth one last time.
But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, like a rainbow.
Your true colors are beautiful. And I don't know if you knew this, that our church, that physical one, you see a picture of it there, I don't know if you're aware that it's painted to be like a geode. It was deliberately painted this way. So the outside of the church is painted a dark green, but you pass through a warm yellow in each of the passageways into the inner courtyard. And once you're there, you're surrounded by this beautiful blue, and of course, all the flowers and greenery at the heart of the church, that place where we gather and celebrate and mourn together. That inner courtyard, I think, is the most beautiful part of our church. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the number one goal I have for all of us, for our church, for Unitarian Universalism, is that we bring our fierce love out into the world and break open all those beautiful hearts waiting. They're just waiting for someone to truly see them. And the reason why I wanted you to answer these questions this morning is that we forget that we are a geode. We hide in our shell of unassuming rock and forget about that beautiful crystal inside. And that crystal, it makes us powerful. It's our true colors. As Maya Angelou reminds us, she says, stand up straight and realize who you are. Well, I tell you, she was a master of fierce love. So what are you waiting for? Go be fierce, show your true colors, and let's answer the call of fierce love. Let us sing.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever so grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing 1/2 of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our value. This month, we are supporting American Family Housing. Let's show our true colors by helping support them during this difficult time. They have been building homes and rebuilding lives in Southern California for 30 years. You can find out more about American Family Housing through their website at afhusa.org. There are 3 ways in which you can give. The first is through our website. The second is through an app called Give Plus. And the third is by texting. As always, thank you for your generosity as the offering is given and received.
When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. And he would read the holy word and concentrate the holy bread. And everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now.
When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in 2, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle.
Everything's a miracle. Water from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath, like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done.
This morning outside I stood,
And saw a little red-winged bird,
shining like a burning bush.
and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when in church let out how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world out there, having second-rate
Please join in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share.
Gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Well, let's all take a deep breath. Here we come to that time in our service, our weekly ritual called Joys and Sorrows. And you're welcome, whether you're a member, a friend, a visitor, everyone is welcome to participate. It's a time when we honor what we hold close in our heart, a profound joy or sorrow. And we do this, normally when we're together, we do this by lighting a candle and coming forward. And I invite you to do that at home if you like. It's a great way of embodying and honoring that which you hold inside you. But if you'd like to let the entire congregation know about what you're holding, that joy or that sorrow, I invite you to do so and to place it in the chat again. So I invite you to do so as Beth plays a little bit of music. And once you do, I'll read those again out loud. And if you could hold any comments to a joy or sorrow for just a few moments until I'm done so that I don't miss any joy or sorrow, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So Scott says that Margaret is very sore, but home from the hospital without her gallbladder. Bless her heart. That is a not fun surgery. And Marilyn is with her daughter. That's a joy. Sarah Hunter says her son Brendan is recovering from COVID. He's feeling much better. Oh, that's a big relief. And Jan, so everybody know that this week Beth and she celebrated 9 years as domestic partners. And she says, I'm so blessed that she picked me. Absolutely. We're glad about that too. So, and Denny and Bob says, ask Scott to give Margaret their best. And I'm not sure, this is Elizabeth, sorry. Elizabeth says, struggling with online teaching, COVID fatigue is real. Yeah, it is. It is. Pat says her dear brother Jerry is confirmed he has a cold and not COVID, so she's feeling blessed about that. And a joy from William, Christmas is almost here. Yes, William, who's I think, how old's William? He's 7? I bet he's happy, but Christmas is here, almost here. Let's see here. And Kate says she has a joy that her daughter and her significant other will be welcoming back to Petaluma and being her support through medical issues. And it's a sadness that she's going to be leaving Southern California, the Wales, and the church, except of course on Zoom. See, that's the great thing about Zoom, isn't it, Kate? I'm so glad you're going to be taken care of, though. And Valerie says lit a candle for her grandmother that's been ill for several months and is very sad to be confined to the 2 rooms of her apartment again due to the lockdown. Yeah, it's really hard on people. And Marcia says, please send caring thoughts for my longtime friend, Pat Cunningham, who is now on hospice suffering from Parkinson's disease. She was for a long time a member of the fiction book group. Thank you, Marcia, for letting us know. And Marilyn says with her daughter's permission that her daughter Anna is now 1 year sober. Go, Anna. And able to be with her youngest child, an 18-month-old Bradley. Oh, that's wonderful. That's great news. And Mara Anandre says our 6-month-old daughter Vivian needs a scary surgery to correct the shape of her skull. Her bones fused too early and need to be corrected to prevent any brain damage. We're nervous but hopeful for a good outcome. Oh, let's definitely hold Mara and Andres and Vivian all with lots of love. Yeah. Sarah wants to let us know that she and her husband, her best friend, will be married 48 years on the 9th. And yeah, and Linda Clough has sent us sorrow for the passing of her sweet and wonderful, talented cousin, Judy Hamner Mulford, who passed this morning after only a few weeks since a cancer diagnosis. It looks like Judy was one of Linda's best and most beloved friends, so we hold Linda in our heart. Yeah, that's so hard. And Bertie also has a sorrow. She says her cousin is one of 13 in a memory care facility diagnosed with COVID-19. So far, she doesn't have any symptoms, but we hope that that remains that way. Thank you, Bertie, for letting us know. And I know that Karen Kennedy, she let me know that she has a joy of being able to go up to Sonoma this week and to be with her grandson as he turns 10 years old. And we're gonna hope that she stays safe and healthy. And Catherine Tatus has a candle of joy. She says her scheduled brain MRI showed that her tumor continues to die off. And doctors say it won't need another MRI for 3 years. Oh, hallelujah. That's wonderful news, Catherine. That is really great. Oh, there's a lot going on here, isn't it? So let us hold and love all those joys and celebrations, all the hurts and sadness, whether they've been spoken or they were silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. And let all these moments remind us that we're not alone. I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer by a Unitarian Universalist poet named Jeremy Taylor. It's called Love Prayer. It's one of my all-time favorites. Oh God, Goddess, grant me love. Please make it simply difficult. Make it crack and melt the hard places where I'm so sure of myself. And make it stiffen and enliven the weak places where I'm uncertain, where I'm ignorant and secretly afraid. And please make it horribly inappropriate, so I must really know you in myself and myself in you, forced to give up everything that is not love, because it is so hard to do it willingly. I pray this, knowing that it will ruin me. Let me be ruined by love, so that I may come back to you without pride or stupidity or pretense or opinions or any sense of separation, stripped like a lover, hungry and ecstatically full, all at the same time. Amen.
Let's join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet, when we are together, virtually or otherwise, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you're a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community, if even just for today. We encourage you to write in the chat your name and where you are from. Our community is enriched by its visitors, guests, and friends, and we hope that you find a spiritual home here. If you'd like to know more about our church, please see our church website for ways that you can get involved and sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. If you'd like to know more about membership, please contact us at membership@ocuuc.org. If you would be interested in religious education for our children and youth, please contact Reverend Judy at revjudy@ocuuc.org. If anyone has a question about Unitarian Universalism, please contact Reverend Sean at minister@ocuuc.org. Reverend Sean has a few announcements.
Hey y'all, okay, so this is the big month of December. We've got all sorts of things coming up. There's our weekly meetings and everything, and even today the AHA group is meeting. But we got all church events. There's a Hanukkah party coming up this coming Saturday. So you're welcome to join in that. There's the winter solstice singing ritual. For those of you who might be a little bit newer, the winter solstice singing ritual is this beautiful service that we do in the evening, right around the solstice. As this time is Saturday, December 19th. And Beth has been working incredibly hard. There's a lot of beautiful music going on in it. It's a wonderful service. So I really invite you. If you've never done it, for whatever reason, it's a busy time of the season, come on Zoom. It's going to be there for you. And then, of course, we have our wonderful Christmas Eve service. And to let you know, you're going to see this in the blast and everything. We're doing some prep for both the winter solstice and the Christmas Eve service. Because, you know, we all hold a candle, right? In both of those services, we hold up a candle during it. And we know not everybody does have one. So actually, the staff have created a wonderful sort of gift bag for you that will be at the church, and you'll see the dates of when that's going to be in the blast, and you'll be able to pick that up. It'd be like the week before the winter solstice singing ritual, and you can swing by and pick it up. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, we can also deliver it to you, but we invite you to come. We've got all sorts of goodies in the back, including the candle already for you. So I wanted to let you know about all of that. So let us sing our benediction. All right, people, stand up straight and know who you are. Go forth and be fierce. This service is over. Let our service continue.